Welcome back, everybody, to the Transfer Portal podcast brought to you by NoContextCFB. It's your boy Brian. You've seen me before. We have Fredi here with us. I think it's your first time on a pod, isn't it?
It is my first time on a No Context CFB pod. Yeah.
Cool. Well, welcome. So another new face. We've had a lot of new faces rolling around lately. So we're excited about that. We're growing. We're getting a lot of good, talented people, including Fredi, to be involved with us. So that's great. So we're kind of in the thick of things right now with spring football. We're getting a lot of spring games going on. But before we do that, we do want to kind of touch a little bit on some news that happened over the weekend, and it was the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins. Obviously, a very, very sad thing to have to read when it broke. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Fredi? Anything you want to say?
Yeah. I remember when he was at Ohio State, like very vaguely, right when I was getting into college football, just like, his success at Ohio State was just really cool to see. But yeah, no, and I mean, like he was going to make a major comeback in the NFL, as I believe, from what I saw and my knowledge of the game. So I don't know. It's just really sad and disappointing, and I hope the best for his family.
Yeah, definitely. It's very sad, and it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective, especially when we talk about athletes and not necessarily celebrities, but people who we kind of see a lot of on the football field or on TV or whatever the case may be. We kind of take a step. We kind of don't really take a step back and realize that these are actual humans and people that go through life the same way that we do. And I think it kind of it was really frustrating to see some of the things that were being said about him, even after his passing. We saw how Adam Schefter tweeted out when he first broke the news. He said, "Oh, he'd be struggling in the NFL." You don't really have to bring that up. And then the comments by Gil Brandt on the radio said that he kind of like wasn't. I don't know exactly the quote, but he said something like he wasn't surprised because Dwayne Haskins kind of put himself in that position and doing those types of things about making bad decisions. And it kind of makes you sad because these are human beings, and we talk about these people like they're not. We kind of see them as almost like entertainers and kind of cartoons because they're there to entertain us, right? And when something like this happens, it kind of puts it in perspective that this is still a very fragile life that we all go through. And it kind of makes you want to think back, and do we really want to talk about these people that way, or really want to? He took a lot of bad rap in the NFL, early on in his career, and he admitted to it that he wasn't really ready and that he wasn't really, ready for the spotlight of being in the NFL. But that doesn't take away from his incredible talent that he was, and the incredible, play that he had at Ohio State. I mean, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and the fact that he was able to beat out Joe Burrow, he basically made Joe Burrow transfer. We saw what Joe Burrow turned out to be. That goes to show his talent, and he did get signed by the Steelers, and he looked like he was in a good spot. When with Roethlisberger retiring, he had a good chance to compete for the starting role, and it's just unfortunate tragedy to happen. And it kind of, like I said, it just puts it into perspective, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth because he had such a bright future, and we can all go like that, and we just gotta be nice to everybody, be nice to one another. And yeah, he was an incredible person. Well, obviously we didn't know him personally, but everything that I've seen and everything that I've read about him has been very nothing but positive. So like you said, prayers to his family. All of us here at the Transfer Portal, were heartbroken when it happened, and we wish his family the best, and we hope that we don't have to see anything like this happen anytime soon. Because 24 years old, I'm 25 years old, so we're around the same. It's sad. I can't even imagine losing my life right now. So but not to get too, we don't want to get too sad about this in this episode. So we definitely send prayers out to his family, and we hope the best for them. So so let's move on. Kind of hard to segue from that, but let's move on to spring ball. So spring football is in full swing, like I mentioned earlier. We have had a lot of spring games happen over the last few weeks. We have a couple big ones coming up this weekend and next weekend. So kind of things are trying to wrap up here. Have you taken anything from any of the spring games that you've seen, or anything from spring ball in general, and what are you looking forward to? I know that you're going to Arkansas spring games soon. So what are you looking forward to that? What do you think?
I mean, so I haven't been able to watch any of them currently. I do plan on going back and watching them. But I think that like A&M was certainly a surprise for me. I think that my tunnel vision as an Arkansas student is very anti-SEC teams. So it was very surprising and nice to see like some really good reports coming out of A&M. So sorry.
No worries.
I don't know why I just started talking. It was like that, but yeah, no, it was really surprising to see some of these really good reports coming out of A&M. I'm really looking forward to Arkansas one. It is supposed to rain. I'm so thrilled. I'm not actually very thrilled, but it's supposed to rain this weekend up in Fayetteville. So I'm looking forward to seeing where Malik Hornsby is at with us. Especially I've seen some stuff. And you know, the football team has posted some stuff as well, but you know, like I really want to see where he's at, what he's doing, and you know, if he's gonna stay, you know, just kind of what's going on with him. And you know, always love to see KJ Jefferson do some stunts. Hopefully not break his neck. That is always is somehow always a concern at this point, is for him to do a stunt and break his neck. We just need that to happen. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I miss college football so much. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, definitely. I see spring football as kind of like preseason NFL. Whenever it comes on, you're kind of excited, like, football's on TV, and then after a few minutes, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, it's preseason for a reason, right? Like, it's not very good football right now. They're still getting the kinks out and everything. That's kind of how spring ball is going. But it's really exciting to see, you know, after last season, you kind of see who's who leaves, who's coming back, who are the teams that are going to be very good. You kind of want to see what pieces they kind of put together after losing seniors or people to the NFL. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, in a game setting, what that looks like. I did pay attention to a couple. One of them was Arizona State. You know, obviously they lost their quarterback through the transfer portal with Jaden Daniels. So he transferred to LSU. So that kind of left a void, like what's going to happen at quarterback. So they kind of, you know, and I still don't think there was really an answer there. You know, they had three. The two of them getting first team reps was Trent Bourgois. I forget. I'm not really sure how to say that. Bourgois, yeah. And
I would say Bourgois.
yeah. And then Paul Tyson, they were getting he transferred from Alabama. They were both getting first team reps. So that was interesting to see exactly what they're going to do at the quarterback position. So a lot of questions for Arizona State after their spring game. Usually when you leave spring game, you kind of have some answers to these questions. At least, you know, you're kind of trending towards a direction, and that's kind of interesting to see how they have three quarterbacks that they can go to. And I don't really see any of them as being, you know, the clear-cut favorite to start come the fall, but we still have all the fall camp coming up, so they can definitely answer that question. Another one was Kentucky. Kentucky had the really good start to the season last year. They were, I think, 8th, and when they lost to Georgia, they you know, they had a pretty decent, for Kentucky standards, they had a pretty good season. And I like to see them. You know, I was hoping to, you know, even though I'm a Georgia fan and there are an SEC East rival, I do want to see how they were gonna kind of build that momentum for Kentucky, and it kind of it showed. You know, Will Levis did very well. You know, they had a lot of starters who started last year come back, and they're playing well. So I think they could build that momentum moving forward to next season. And like I said, Will Levis looked really, really good. I was watching the spring game, and he was, you know, slinging it. He was making good throws. It was really good. So what I'm looking forward to, obviously, you know, we have to bring up Georgia. As a Georgia fan, everybody says that I'm a homer and everything, but that's who I pay attention to. That's what everybody pays attention to their teams. So I am really looking forward to Georgia spring game. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, especially we lost a lot of talent to the NFL draft. So I'm interested to see how that looks on in a game setting. I'm interested to see Stetson Bennett, how he's finally getting that first year back as a starter. He doesn't have those questions about JT Daniels being around him and all these other guys that are around him. He's coming in as a full-fledged starter. He has a chance to go in there and show what he can do as a starter. From what I've seen all of camp, he's done very, very well. He's played very, very great football all of camp. And, I'm very excited to see how he's going to do with the first team reps and really kind of taking command of the offense. Another is a wide receiver room. Eric Gilbert, is coming. He missed last season with mental health issues. He's coming back this year. Kind of fit. He's kind of being fit into the mold as a tight end. And we already have Brock Bowers. We already have Darnell Washington. We lost Jermaine Burton to the transfer portal. He went to Alabama. He was our leading receiver last year. As a receiver, not obviously Brock Bowers, was dominated everybody, but as a receiver, he was our leading receiver. So that's going to be interesting to see who they kind of fit in there. And there's a lot of Dominic Blakelock has missed 2 years, had missed pretty much all of last season with the ACL tear. How are they going to replace, a lot of guys that have left, Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, a lot of these guys who are definitely going to be drafted in the NFL. So I'm very interested to see that and see what's going to happen there. And yeah, it's going to be fun. It's this Saturday. I'm going to watch, of course, obviously they're going to get their championship rings. So that's cool. That's another incentive to watch Georgia spring game. Interested to see what the championship rings look like. So that'll be fun to watch there. So kind of a little bit pivoting over to coaching. You don't really want to talk about coaching in the spring. Usually that's pretty much, there's really nothing to talk about, but our favorite coach of all time, Dabo Swinney, which is, I'm definitely being sarcastic, is in the news again because of things that he said. He mentioned last week that the college football needs to be blown up, or that it's looking like it's going to blow up. What do you think about that? What are your comments on what he said?
Number one, I had to Google which comments he was referring to. Whenever that was on the docket, I was like, which one? I just don't think he's left 2018. I don't think he's kind of left this, like, I mean, it's 2010s, but like not super like what college football is right now. I don't know. It's just like, what? It's like, come on, dude. Like you're a coach. So yeah, I don't know. I was actually really hoping to hear your thoughts about it. Because I know some stuff about coaching, but this is also the first time I've had a good coach at my school. In my short lifetime, Sam Pittman, yes, please. But it's also like,
Great.
so seeing that coaching dynamic this is kind of my first year for that. So I was actually going to hope that you were going to talk first.
Yeah, no worries. So for those who don't know the quote, here's what he said. He said, I think there's going to be a complete blow up, especially in football, and there needs to be one. I think eventually there will be some type of break in another division. Right now, you get everybody in one group, and it's not feasible. Alabama has different problems than Middle Tennessee, but we're trying to make them all the same, and it's just not. I think you have 40 or 50 teams and a commissioner, and here are the rules. He says that the current system is a mess, and it's hard to get anything accomplished as college athletics continue to evolve in the new world of the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness system that's in play now. Honestly, I don't really think there's much there. I think Dabo Swinney just like to hear himself talk. He's not a very, he's always, I feel like ever since the transfer portal and the NIL's kind of coming around, he's kind of been very abrasive and very defensive about that. I don't really think he cares a lot about, and I don't want to make accusations about Dabo Swinney, but I don't really think that he cares a lot about his players per se. He cares about the program and about the school. And I feel like he sees his players as, just part of the machine. There's cogs in the machine that keep the whole thing going. If you're not a fan of the transfer portal, if you're not a fan of your, name, image, and likeness, you're not really looking out for the players. I definitely do think that, when he says about blowing it up, yes, obviously there are problems in college football where, Middle Tennessee does have different problems than Alabama, but that's not new. That's nothing that's happened, recently. That's been going on forever, for decades. Florida, Alabama, Miami, Georgia, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, those programs are a lot different than Middle Tennessee and Cincinnati and Eastern Kentucky, or all these other programs that are not. They're two different spectrums of competitiveness and actually I think we're in a place now where those types of programs have an opportunity to kind of make their way up and start to compete. We saw what Cincinnati did this year. We've seen UCF and Boise State, the last decade or so, really compete and have very good football teams. And I think that's something that that the NIL and the transfer portal is helping, because you have a second string cornerback at Georgia or at Alabama transfer to, UTSA or Houston or some of these programs, and they're able to make that program better and more competitive. And I think that's great. So I don't really know what he's saying here. It doesn't seem like there's a lot there, in my opinion, at least. I think that there really isn't.
He's talking to talk.
Yeah, exactly right.
So the thing that I saw on my Twitter timeline, just kind of all off and on this week, was his comment about the transfer portal in particular. Like him being like, you should, like, it shows that our players, like, we don't care about our current players if we get a bunch of transfers in or whatever. And it's like, that's also to my 2018 comment of like, like not embracing the transfer portal and NIL and the whole 9 yards. But it's like with Cincinnati, like Arkansas's home opener is Cincinnati. And I have Arkansas being Arkansas, but it's like I've never seen such excitement for a game that's non-conference.
Right.
Like, and then we play BYU, and it's, like we see these teams that, like, again, BYU isn't like Middle Tennessee, but Middle Tennessee isn't like BYU or Arkansas. Like it's so diverse in like the way that we exist as college football that it's just it's kind of like, why dude? Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just weird because NIL is so important, and especially in the SEC is so important. I like that's how like A&M's getting their transfers. They've got a ton of money. Arkansas is getting a ton of money, so they get a ton of transfers. Like Kentucky, they got some money. They're gonna get some transfers that like probably top tier from places like Middle Tennessee that'll make them way better. And it's just like that competitiveness is so, yeah, like what you said earlier, was like it's just at a different level now. It's just different now than it was before.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's to that point where you do have a player from Texas State who does very, very well, who probably wasn't very well recruited out of high school, who goes to Texas State, does extremely well, and then transfers to Texas A&M or Texas or Baylor, one of these programs. And you have the other way around, like I mentioned, when you have a 5-star player who doesn't get a lot of playing time at these top schools, go to a team like Middle Tennessee, and then they it makes their program better. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We are getting that excitement now from these Group of 5 schools. So when it comes to a complete blow up, I don't understand. Like I don't get it. And I feel like Dabo Swinney's been this way for a while. I mean, he's kind of felt this way. Like you said, since 2018, for the last few years, he's kind of been very bitter about a lot of things that are happening in college football. And I wrote an article about this, a couple of months ago. Is if you don't like the way, don't be mad of what's happening. Change, like, be a part of it. Do what you got to do. If you're mad at Texas A&M for paying all this money for recruits, pay money for your recruits. Like, that's all you have to do. don't be mad at them for doing something that they're legally able to do now. You can pay recruits now. That's the thing that's you can do. Obviously, we're not oblivious and we're not ignorant to know that this was probably going on for a long time, but it's you're able to do that now. So instead of complaining about it, instead of crying and saying how it's ruining college football, you know, adapt, change, and be the way that everybody else is doing, and your program will be better too. Eventually, it'll even itself out. There's always this shock value when something new comes along, whether it's new rules, new schools, new programs, new, the BCS system when it came out, it was the shock value of it. The college football playoff, the shock value of it, and you kind of get this very out there reactions to it, and then it kind of teeters out and evens out, and then we kind of get to a point, in 5-10 years from now where it's not going to matter. It's going to be another thing that's happened, and then something else is going to come along that everybody's going to freak out about, and everybody else has embraced it. Everybody else has the same problems that Dabo Swinney has. Alabama has lost players to the transfer portal. Georgia's lost players to the transfer portal. They have all had issues. They've all had to use the NIL to their advantage. A&M probably the biggest winner in that aspect for what they were able to do for this last year in recruiting with the NIL. Everybody has the same problems. So instead of crying and complaining about it, do something about it. Use that platform for your advantage, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
Oh no, it was just that just kind of reminds me of something that you said earlier about I don't know, it just kind of seems like he's devaluing his players. I just as a person, of course, you may not agree with paying recruits or some parts of NIL or how A&M has just a ton of money for its players, and it's okay, yeah, I get it, but also by saying that you don't want that or you don't value that as a part of the thing now that it's completely legalized, you're saying that you don't value your players as individuals, you don't value them as a part of the team and that they deserve to be, just compensated for the value that they're giving your program. I think that's just so weird. And me being this is my last year at Arkansas, so it's I have gotten to know people who are in these programs, the basketball program and the football program, and all these different programs, and it's very much why not? And so seeing him kind of devalue his players like that is okay, well then why would people want to transfer there? I don't know. Just seems a little iffy to me.
And here's another quote that kind of goes along the lines of, and it's crap in my opinion. He says, I am against anything that he's talking about the NIL. I am against anything that devalues education. That's what I'm against. I am for anything that incentivizes education. People will come after me because I've always said that I'm against the professionalism of college athletics, and I am. Kids don't know what they don't know. It's a slippery slope if you professionalize college athletics. And now you've got salaries and taxes, and you can fire kids on the spot, and they've got to pay for their tuition and pay for their housing and everything else. I don't know what he's talking about here. You don't fire players. I don't think it works that way. And the NIL is it's name, image, and likeness. It has nothing to do with the play on the field. They're able to. Obviously, if you're very, very good at football, you're going to get a lot more money. But I'm pretty sure if Bryce Young has a bad season, he's not going to lose the millions of dollars he's already made. So, I don't really know. I could say again, it's just more. It just sounds like old man yelling at clouds at this point. He just doesn't really. I just feel like it sounds to me that for the first time in his career, he's lost the power that he has in control of his players. And he doesn't like that. Players have more control of their careers now more than ever. With the transfer portal, the NIL, all these other rules, they got rid of that rule where if you transfer, you have to sit a year. So you don't have to do that anymore. So the careers of these young kids, and they're 18, 19, 20 years old. They're kids. The careers of these young kids have been shifted back into the hands of the players themselves. And that's great. We should all applaud that. And for Dabo Swinney to be kind of bitter about it, it's getting people to talk about it. Here we are, we're talking about it. So, it's
it's just weird that he doesn't see it as like another education opportunity. Like this is like an opportunity to teach you about how to like manage your own career and like how to do taxes, like how to handle like the like pressures of what possibly an NFL career or, you know, any other like league career looks like or coaching career looks like. How is that like, I don't know. I know he's just like talking to talk and like we're talking about him, of course. And so that helps him. But it's just like, is that not another education opportunity for players? Because I mean, like I'm 20 and I'm about to graduate and I have no idea what I'm doing. And so if I had an opportunity to go into a career, like, you know, if I was, you know, going professional in rugby, I would really deeply appreciate the ability to like have a coach teach me how to like be a professional in that type of career. So I don't know. It's just
you make a great point. You know, having somebody come in and be like a CMA kind of like a money manager to help these guys manage their money, and you know, because once they do get to the NFL, for those that do get to the NFL, you know, they'll be able to manage their money better. And you're absolutely right. And I'm the same way. When I graduated high school, when I was in college, I had no idea how to manage my money. And even now, shout out my wife, because she's super good with that money and knowing how to save and all those other stuff. And I didn't know how to do that. So I think instead of complaining about that, you know, why don't you help your players and help them be more aware and smart with their money and how to be responsible. So, and you're right, it is an education thing, and I do like it. So so that's pretty much, we kind of hopped on that quite a bit. So that's good conversation to have about Dabo Swinney talking a lot, which he does quite a bit. So you know, we're kind of in that state of college football where there's you know, spring football is wrapping up. We're kind of getting into the summertime. So, you know, we see the darkness a little bit coming up, but it'll ramp up sooner rather than later. And hopefully the summer will go by quickly and we're hitting pads back in the fall again, fairly soon. So, any last thoughts before we get over this?
I'm just excited for the draft and see where Treylon Burks ends up. Very excited about that. So that's all I've got until how many more months?
Yeah, definitely. And we've put out some incredible content. You know, our guys at the transfer portal have put out some incredible content when it comes to the draft. So yeah, I would definitely check out all of the articles that have been put out, our YouTube channel, our videos. They're doing some amazing work. They're a lot smarter than I am when it comes to the draft and stuff like that. So shout out to them. So we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up with the draft. It's going to be, you know, I think it's next 2 weeks from now or next week, next Thursday, I think it's when the draft is. So yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Check out all of our YouTube videos and our articles about the draft coming up. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and you have a good one.
See ya. Thanks.